AITA for dropping off my friend's dog at a doggy daycare when I was supposed to be watching him. My friend 25 female asked me 24 female if I could watch her dog, Cody, for 2 weeks while she went back to her home state to deal with some family issues. She told me he was potty trained, good with people, and good with other animals. I have a cat, Tawny. I had been to her house a few times, and at least during the times I've been there, he's usually a sweetheart. I said yes, and when it came time for her to leave, she dropped Cody and his things off. First thing I realized is that Cody wasn't as house-trained as she claimed. Maybe he knew it was wrong to pee in his house, but he clearly thought it would be perfectly okay to do it in mine. It happened on the first day, and when I told her, she said she had let him outside rather than walking him like she usually would, so maybe he had just sat outside and did nothing rather than do his business. It had been on the vinyl wood floor and I caught it immediately, so I just let it slide, cleaned it up, and took him for a walk right after. But as the days went by and it happened more than once, it became clear to me that he just wasn't that well potty trained at all. Second thing I realized is that, yes, he's friendly with other animals, but that doesn't mean good with other animals. Tawny had no problem with him when he was calm, but when he was hyperactive and getting all up in her space, she would get hissy and swipe at him. I ended up banishing him from the upstairs. But that led to another problem. Cody hated to be alone at night. He absolutely hated it, and made sure everyone knew about it by whining and barking until he would tire himself out. I finally ended up calling my friend and telling her that her dog isn't as well behaved as she claimed, and that she needed to tell me another friend of hers she felt comfortable enough to hand him off to, or that I was just going to end up sticking him in a doggy daycare that she'd either have to pay for or pay me back for. She got upset and asked why I had agreed to dog sit if I was just going to dump him, but I agreed to dog sit a dog who was painted as not having behavioral issues. She couldn't find someone she could trust to take care of Cody, so I found a non-expensive but still decently reviewed doggy daycare to drop him off at. She said she'd pay me back since I ended up paying up front, but that she was really cross with me and wasn't sure if she could depend on me for things anymore. I felt totally justified originally, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized I could totally understand why she'd be upset that I essentially went back on my word and also made her pay for a service she hadn't planned on using. I hadn't asked her to pay me to watch her dog. AITA, just to clear up some preconceptions. 1. I know how to care for a dog. Before I moved out of my parents' house, I was the main caretaker for the family dog, Prince. One of the reasons I was convinced she hadn't trained Cody as well as she claimed was because Prince never had accidents no matter where he was once I had him potty trained. 2. The daycare wasn't something I just chose on my own haphazardly. I looked through the places near me and she agreed on one for me to take him to according to reviews and pricing. 3. I followed the instructions of Cody's care given to me. 4 walks a day with 4-hour intervals starting at 8 with a last call to the backyard before bed. As for attention, I like to think I gave him plenty. I played with him indoors and outdoors and he'd sit with me on the couch during downtime. He didn't really beg for attention during the daytime, and he didn't beg for attention during night until he got permabanned. Comments. She got upset and asked why I had agreed to dog sit if I was just going to dump him. But I agreed to dog sit a dog who was painted as not having behavioral issues. You wouldn't have dumped him doggy daycare if he didn't have the problems he did at your place. Normally, when you have an animal that needs to stay in a new environment for an extended time, you take the time to introduce them into the home with the other people to see how they actually do with the owner there. You two didn't do that. I am surprised that the daycare allowed you to drop him off with an introductory period beforehand. Most won't let you do that. There was a brief meet and greet. I just didn't include it in my post since it was already getting lengthy. I had to go to my friend's house to grab Cody's medical documents to fill out a form, and she had to be on a call with me while boarding him since I wasn't his original owner. Did you have to fill out any application? Most doggy daycares have certain requirements, and since you're not Cody's owner, you wouldn't have any information on him, including medical. When I had my Chihuahua girl boarded, I had to get her the Bordetella shot so she could socialize with others. Yeah, an application was filled out and there was a brief meet and greet. She gave me the garage code to her house to grab her folder that had Cody's medical history documents, and she was on a phone call with me when boarding him since I wasn't his owner.